Cool, we're live. Welcome to another session on WordSesh. I'm joined by an amazing group of people that I am honored to call good friends. And this is an awesome opportunity again. Why I love this is to see some really good friends that I've made. This is an interesting talk, an important one, I think. Maybe one that's not that important to a lot of people. It probably wasn't to me until I moved to Europe, actually, and realized, the amount not only of effort but just the importance of this topic is to everybody, not just say English speaking or not just a few languages, but to everybody. And I think WordPress is doing a fantastic job and pioneered by some really good people. So we're joined by Zay and Petya to talk a little bit about WordPress translation and these WordPress and languages, everything about translations. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the growth in it. I don't know if Petya, if you want to talk about the Polyglots translation day stuff, it kind of falls into this. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. But do have some questions. I would encourage you guys to also ask questions in the audience. This is of huge importance. I think it's we talked about a lot with the growth of WordPress outside of the US. It's continuing to grow. WordCamp Europe, everything that's tied into kind of success of WordPress is probably there's a huge amount of stuff that we maybe just don't think about because it's not code, we're developers, but around there's a huge amount of work, a lot of importance around this topic, and I'm excited to talk about it. And we have some of the two of the there's a lot of very good people, but two of some very great people here, Zay and Petya, to join you and talk about this. So I'll let you guys do quick introductions like we did on the WordCamp Europe talk, and then I have some questions, and hopefully that'll lead to some interesting discussion. So Petya, we'll start with you again, just really quick, maybe more in context of what you're doing or what you've done with translations in WordPress rather than what we did on the WordCamp one.
Sure, yeah. Hey everyone, for those of you who are just tuning in. It's so awesome to be here. Thanks, Scotty, for throwing this again. My name is Petya, and in terms of the WordPress Polyglots team, I am a translator, a translation editor, and I also try and help other people on the Polyglots team do their job amazingly well and work together. So this is currently what I'm trying to do. I run meetings from time to time, communication with the other teams, making sure everybody's up to date with everything that's happening, and generally just pushing people and being a giant pain in the ass for everyone to kind of keep the work that they've started. I've gotten pretty good at this, and people, I guess, are appreciating it. I'm very, very happy to be working for one of the biggest teams in the WordPress ecosystem.
There you go.
Over to you, Zay.
Good morning. In the case of Stephen, good evening. My name is Zay. I've been working with WordPress for a long time now. I used to do what Petya does now with the Polyglots, way back when it was a mailing list. This was a very long time ago. And so I did that for a while. I began as aside from being a developer, a translator of WordPress to Portuguese, the proper one. I'm just trying to see if the Brazilians are awake. They're probably not. It's too early. Anyway, so I started that translating, and then got involved with the Polyglots, as I said before, when it was a mailing list. And then it morphed into an actual team. So I did that for a while. And it's very rewarding to see that, A, the flame has been passed correctly to the right person. And 2, amazed to see the growth that has happened since, which was, a pipe dream of the people that were on Polyglots way back when and has now become reality. It's very, very exciting to see.
Cool. Again, I think that you guys have a huge history with this thing, from pioneering it, being a part of it when it was probably a painful process, and to probably see where it's gone is really exciting for you. And Petya, all your hard work as well. hats off to you guys for putting such an important such a weight on this and how important it is. I think as a community we've done it as well, but kind of answering the call, I guess you could say, or listening to people say and actually following through and helping manage people do it and etc. So I think it's really I don't say it lightly, but it is it's very important, right? This ideas of even just it's at the end of the day it's communication, right? It's a very important aspect of everything that we do, right? So people need to have something in their own language to easily portray, communicate, understand, etc. So let's talk a little bit about Zay. You talked, you've been from the beginning. You've been around. Let's talk about the origins of WordPress translations, how it all started. Dig a little deeper into I guess your story with this.
Well, the moment I came on, the code, which was around, I think, shortly after 1.5, so around before 2.0, there was already, the core code already was already prepared for dealing with translations. So the get text functions were already implemented. But you have to understand that there were already before that, before the code had those functions, there were already actual versions of WordPress in other languages, notably Japanese, if I'm not wrong, French maybe, and which consisted of going into the code and actually changing the strings in the code to another language. So you edit every single file that has a string in it and change it to another language. These were the first packages. I mean, and this illustrates a very important point, which is, I don't know about the other teams, but Polyglots at the beginning feels like the least selfless team of all, because this is the prime example of scratching your own itch. I'm implementing this for a client or for myself or for whoever. I need this in my language. How do I do it? It was not, as far as I'm concerned, and I know, and I do know lots of Polyglots, it began with, no, I'm sorry, I just need this, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. Now that we have a platform, it's a different thing. So, and that evolved from translating it in the code, hard coding, and then we had the functions in the code. We could use stuff like POEdit, which meant download a file, do the translations, upload the file to the mailing list, politely ask, please, 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 could you deploy this? And that's how we went. And this moved on to the Polyglots having their own team, becoming a team, having a translation platform called WordPress, which, made everything a lot easier. And then from then on, it was the largest milestone was, I think, when we managed to package foreign language. I have that time.
Foreign?
No, to me, English is a foreign language. Other languages, to package them automatically and make them available for download. I think that's very good. So my experience was I lived through all that. But we're just talking about the technical stuff, because as far as the community is concerned, it's amazing to see. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's still amazing to see that if you go on the Polyglots P2, you can see people from all over the world discussing stuff. And there's literally zero political, social, cultural trolling going on. Zero, nothing. I mean, people get along. This is like a hippie dream. Everybody almost sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya. Sometimes it feels like that. So, and it's unique. I think it's unique. Aside from the very robust platform we have to translate, what we have is an incredible community. And that was actually one of the reasons behind WordCamp Europe. So.
Cool. Just a quick note on that too is like, there's something, I know that there's something special in Polyglots, and I come at it from an English speaking. I can't speak a lick of Norwegian yet, and I have like this urge to really want to help with translations actually, and I want to learn Norwegian because I know that it's a rewarding thing. It's actually for my urge to help people. I mean, it doesn't have to be me, but I want to It's a weird thing because I can't even speak another.
It's funny because one of the earliest,
multilingual.
simplest confusions was with Norwegian. Apparently, there's 2 Norwegian.
So I love hearing it from you guys because you have a totally different viewpoint on it. You know, you guys can contribute to, and I know a lot of different people who contribute to it. You're very talented in multiple languages, and I'm trying to see into that and ask the right questions. So, yep, you go.
No, I was going to say that Zay is very talented in multiple languages.
Yes.
I only speak English besides my native Bulgarian. So it doesn't really, you don't need to really be speaking a lot of languages to help the team. You just need to care about, at this point, you just need to care about making, getting WordPress to reach to as many people as possible.
Right.
About 85–90% of my work on Polyglots these days has nothing to do with actually translating. I've managed to delegate almost all of the translating to other people, and I'm just focusing on helping the community. So anyone can really do that.
Yeah. Cool. So let's dig into some more questions I have for you guys. You talked about it a little bit. I guess the question is a little bit more of a direct one or a deeper one, is that, why is this so important to you, Zay? And step back from the beginning of, go further back as to why did you get into this? And Petya, why did you get into this? Where I guess a little bit deeper than, like especially like it, like the community, like what is interesting to you about, maybe even not now that you've seen, why this is so important, but maybe take it back to when it wasn't, WordPress wasn't getting downloaded in all these different languages because it wasn't available. Like what inspired you to get into this and made you know that this was so important, I guess?
I think there are 2 different stages, actually. Oh. There's the stage, as I told you, of I need this in my language, and they are very passionate about it because the release cycle, especially when you're translating alone, it becomes a burden because you have to keep on translating, and it's again, it's a very selfish purpose. You want to do it because you need it. So there is no real passion or commitment. There is a passion, but it's personal, and there is no real notion of what surrounds you, of other people having the exact same problems in other languages, or only vaguely. Right. And then slowly, when this starts morphing into a community, this is, for me, I probably began 90% of my time in Polyglots doing technical stuff, like translating, deploying stuff. And at the very end, I probably did maybe 20% of that. The rest of the time was just talking to people. Just that. It's not just talking to people. It's realizing, that despite the fact that we speak 60+ languages, I don't know how many, people actually are a community, and they have stuff they need fixed, independent, and that's not dependent of the language you speak. One thing that was crucial for us is to get our heads above the water and be seen by the rest of the teams. We had this feeling that we were not, we were considered
underappreciated.
A side note. I'm not calling it underappreciated because we were, but a side note. Why? Because it was not understood. It was not clear what we did. Yeah. Many people thought, "Oh my God, now I have to translate." Yeah. Like I heard from some developers, and I kept telling them, no, just give us stuff. We'll translate. And once we slowly were visible to, especially the core team, which is so important, then things started to change. And there you get a passion for it. You get, first of all, you get this notion that your team is something special and that you belong to a larger community. Yeah. And that your, let's call them peculiarities, are recognized and flagged as important. And this made a whole difference. And to me personally, I think the illustration of that was coming up with the first WordCamp Europe. I think it was. I think it's a direct consequence of that. Oh.
No, it's amazing. I mean, just from my kind of perspective, and what you're saying, and kind of emphasize what you said Tuesday, is that, you know, it's not like you're begging developers to do translations. It's a very small couple of things that you need to do. Just give people the opportunity, right? Open the door, and people are going to help, right? So we see that in every aspect of a lot of stuff with WordPress. Is just give people the opportunity, and people are going to help. And that's, again, like you said a lot of like that it's selfish, but not always selfish, right? I mean, and it's in a way that I guess it's selfish for maybe your language, right? Not maybe personally selfish, right? I think that people do, right, want to help the whole language, right? The WordPress being unavailable. So
sometimes it's not even about translating into your language for yourself.
No.
We're talking about motivations. Sorry to like just jump in. We're talking about motivations. I wanted to chip in with a little bit of mine, because I got into the Polyglots team in a little bit of a different context. I actually started contributing after meeting Zay and getting into an introduction to the team's work at WordCamp Europe and during the contributor day. And I started looking into translating, yes, but also like directly into helping the team. And when it comes to translating to your language, a lot of the people that are developing sites with WordPress, it's an opinion I often hear, say, I don't really need WordPress in my language. You know, I speak English. It's like a lot of the developers that are going to develop websites with WordPress are going to speak English, right? But then we're doing this not for developers. If we want to democratize publishing, we're doing it for like the people that are not really speaking English. A friend of mine started translating WordPress because he wanted his 9-year-old daughter to start blogging. Right. I finalized the translations of WooCommerce at one point because my mom and my sister are running her crochet shop together, and they need to run in a common language that they both speak. Another friend started translating, like that goes beyond WordPress. Like he first started translating open source projects so his mom can start using a platform that he was developing in Bulgarian because she didn't speak English. So it's an accessibility feature, translations. If we want to bring it to more people, it's as plain as that. We need to make it available for language shouldn't be a restriction. And that's one of the things that highly motivates me to push people that want to get involved, that are wondering, should we translate this or should we leave it in English? It's like, my point is always like, try to make it work for the people that you're doing this for. Obviously for yourself, you might not need it, but for the daughters and the mothers and like all the people that are just starting with WordPress, your clients that don't speak English, and all of these people, try to make it work for them. That's how we're really democratizing stuff, making it available for everyone.
Cool. So let's take. You go, Petya.
No, that's it. Like, I just wanted to say that besides obviously caring deeply about everyone that I've met since I started contributing, I managed to kind of get really fond of people that I meet in this project. So besides that really personal need right now to keep working with these people, the deeper motivation goes to the purpose of WordPress at its core.
No, there's so much stuff around this, right? Like you at a high level, what's actually happening here is that I'm thinking, like, for me, is like, having lived in the States and moved to a country that's that's not an English speaking country, is that, for example, like when I worked with WordPress in the States, like I was indirectly benefiting from stuff like for translations, right? It opens up WordPress to a whole new group of people. They do amazing stuff with it. They contribute back in their own way. They do, whether it's development or just the ability to publish stuff on the web and use WordPress as a tool for content management, etc. But like I now see on the flip side where I live in a non-English speaking place, and the contributions to even the Norwegian strings and translations is something that actually directly benefits me now living here and working with WordPress. So my question is, so I kind of have a little bit of an understanding of this, but I'm pretty sure that still there's a lot of people who don't even the stuff that we're talking about, it might not make sense. So it would be cool to talk about a little bit of numbers. And I think we have some numbers on, the polyglots and translations in WordPress specifically. But how does, taking a step back, how does WordPress compare to other, maybe technologies or other things that we know of in terms of translations? Maybe a similar project. Like how can I compare this to something that maybe I know? Is it possible? From me having really no experience with polyglots, other than like I know the importance of it indirectly, directly, living in Norway and stuff like that. The communities, the stuff I've heard you talk about, Petya. But how are we doing with at least WordPress? And you don't have to compare to somebody else. I mean, we can just take a look at our own numbers, and I guess we can just strive to be better at that all the time. But is there a way that we could compare maybe to something else that makes us, that shows that it's really working that well? Or maybe there's some stuff that we need to work on. We could talk a little bit about the numbers that we have to show some really cool stuff and how it's grown. And it's been an amazing growth from what I see here. So just if you guys want to talk about that a little bit.
I don't really have the numbers. Maybe Petya, because in my time at Polyglots, I never really cared what the others did.
No, that's great, and I like that's probably why I asked this question. Is I like that it's.
I have done a little research on that, mostly because I wanted to make a point for developers about why preparing your product for localization is important and how it can benefit them in terms of growth. Yeah, so. I don't have exact numbers, but I can tell you a couple of things that I found during my research. So if you guys remember when Facebook was first introduced, they had this community platform for translation, and they grew so rapidly because they got instantly translated into so many languages. There are sites like Booking.com that are localized to perfection, like even a little bit too much sometimes. But that is like essential for the way that they are growing. And in terms of the open source platforms, luckily almost all of them have now realized how important localization is, and are they're all available for community translations. However, the fact that WordPress started so early, it was like almost a core principle from the beginning for it to be made available for translation. The fact that it started so early contributed to its growth in the early days. They and what the teams that first started translating WordPress, the Japanese, the Germans, the French, the Portuguese, like these teams contributed greatly to pushing that forward, to making, like building the foundations for what's happening today, where we're like exploding with so many new contributors in so many languages that WordPress is available in off the bat, like just 50 to 100%. Like we have almost 70 that are at 90+%. That's a huge amount of accessibility right there in terms of what our reach is throughout the world. Drupal, when Drupal 8 was introduced, it was very funny. They said Drupal 8 now speaks 100 languages. Right. And I was like, okay, let's go see. And it turned out like 2 of those languages were translated, like were available at 100%, and all the rest were like a lot less developed. But it's great that they're pushing for this, and that they're doing so much to expand their polyglots community as well. So everyone's doing it. We're just way ahead, I'd say, especially considering the CMS market, the one we are in. And also, we now translate plugins and themes on translatewordpress.org as well. Something that I don't believe any of the other platforms really does. That means that every. I asked
that question too was not like, are we like comparing ourselves to other people? It's like, I'm curious, is WordPress? We're doing this in a lot of other areas. I talked about it in my last talk. Is like we're setting good examples in a lot of things that we do. And I just want to be able to say, like, are we setting a very good example? And we probably are, but the stats stuff don't necessarily make sense to me because I don't know a lot about this stuff. So I think what you're saying and why we do this, and again, these numbers, I think, I believe, from what I can see, that we are setting a very good example and a very good focus on why this is so important. And it's not in numbers, just the reason why we do it. Accessibility, it's a ton of factors that go into it. So just so we stay on some kind of track here, let's talk a little bit about growth and we talked about this a little bit, but say maybe you could talk about too, just some numbers that I have. So the Polyglots team grew from 4,900 to 10,150 contributors from April 2015. So that's more than 1,000% growth in a bit over a year. How did that happen?
More than 100, but yeah, it's how did it happen? Zay, how did it happen?
What did you guys do?
What did we do? I have an explanation, maybe a sort of explanation.
WordCamp Europe.
And well, there are a lot of things. So WordCamp Europe was essential in actually getting people to start talking to each other. But around the same time WordCamp Europe happened, we started putting like conscious effort into making the Polyglots team, like trying to make the Polyglots team work together, more as in not your 100 separate teams, you know, that are operating on their own, but more as in you're one team and we are going for a common goal, and the success of everyone else on this team is your success as well. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing right, I think, is we managed to create this atmosphere of cooperation between people that come from different countries, speak different languages, have cultural backgrounds and business backgrounds, absolutely completely different from each other, but that genuinely like working together towards, you know, just pushing each next team to get to 100%. The fact that we have something to get to 100%, I think, also helps. So, because like every couple of months, you have like a common goal, which is let's get core translated to 100%. Now we have another common goal, which is like let's get 30,000 plugins translated to 100%, which is something we'll be pursuing for a while. But the release cycle of WordPress helps us, you know, just go into this kind of sprint mindset almost. About a month before the release, about a couple of weeks before the release, we start like just pushing to get to 100%, and everyone's pushing everybody else. You don't necessarily go for, yes, I'm done, I'm out of here. Yeah. You know, you go for, okay, I'm done. So who is not, and what can I do to help?
So knowing nothing about the process, what kind of issues do you run into in terms of, like, I'm thinking sprints and everything that can go wrong in a development sprint, right? There's so many things that in this sprint for you guys, right? So getting a language from 0 to 100%, what are there any roadblocks, any issues that you can run into that would like delay it? I mean, in terms of not having more or less people contribute, is that the factor there? Is it just the amount of time spent on it?
Probably stuff you wouldn't think about, yeah. Like.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, Zay, go ahead.
Sorry, I barged in. Stuff like who's translating what and who's validating what. And a dispute of, no, my translation is better than yours. I speak the language better than you. So I should validate.
I could see it just in the Norwegian that every time I argue.
Well, at the beginning, all that discussion was done on the central P2. We've managed to move most of it out to let people discuss it by themselves and come back with a conclusion. Otherwise, if you ask to meet the best Arabic translation, create post, you're going to have a hard time because you have no idea what you mean.
Sorry.
And Arabic is a very good example because it's spoken across, I don't know how many countries, I mean, a bunch of them. Each one with a different culture and a different approach to the language. And yet the translation is just the word. So that's the kind of stuff. But that's a funny bit.
My favorite story from WordPress Translation Day is when Luis Roll from the Spanish team was about to go online to do a presentation about how to translate WordPress in Spanish. He told me in Slack, so we had a bit of a long conversation about how to translate some stuff, so I don't really have my voice right now. And I could just imagine like how they had like a bit of a maybe heated conversation about how to translate stuff. But no, in terms of the development cycle, I'd say that what can make one more successful than the other is actually how well we work with the core team. Because what happens is like, so a little bit of understanding about the process. What happens in the development cycle is like when strings get into new strings, new functionality gets into core, right? So then that new functionality has new strings that need to be translated. So there are two phases. We call them a soft freeze and a hard freeze. The soft string freeze means that a bunch of features are frozen, as in a code freeze, and the strings for those features get to the Polyglots team for translation with the expectation that they're not going to be changed anymore. That happens around, I'd say that happens about 3 weeks before a release. And then a week before the release, we get into the so-called hard freeze, which means that all the strings, including the about page strings, which are always the last ones to get in, everything else gets frozen. So no strings are changed after. When we get into the hard string freeze cycle, no strings are allowed to be changed anymore. And that's the time where we get all hands on deck. We get like, everyone, like, strings are frozen, let's go, let's translate the rest of them, let's get the languages to 100%. Because languages that get to 100% before the release lead pushes the button for the release, a lot of them get automated language packs and are released automatically with the release. So that means that if your language is at 100%, unless you have something specially added to it, it can be pushed automatically with the release, and that's what we're striving for. You know, it's like what we're trying to get as many languages to 100%, so that they can get released automatically with the upcoming release. So depending on how soon or how late in the release cycle the string freeze happens, that kind of establishes whether or not a release is going to get more full translations on release date or not.
So I probably should have done more research on this, and I'm just going to ask the question because I'll admit that I don't know the story behind it. But Zay, I remember the first time I met you at WordCamp Norway, you gave a talk. I guess, what year was that? Was that 2012?
Never mind. Let's not.
No.
Yeah, probably 2010.
No, it's a serious question though. So you gave a talk on it was on WordPress at the core as a whole, and where we're going. But it was something that was a unique feature that WordPress at the time was the idea of automatic updates, and I know there was a lot of questions asked around that, and you had a lot of good answers. And my question here is, I don't know the history behind it, and it might be totally wrong, but did what was needed in translations kind of inspire what the technology was there in WordPress, or was that the first kind of test case for it? You know, what came first there? In the sense of
no, I think what came first was the auto updates philosophy. Languages didn't factor in until later in the process, I think. Obviously, the way you update languages is not exactly the same that you update either core, plugins, or themes. It's a little different.
Just I'm thinking more of the idea.
The idea itself, I'm not sure it was directly influenced by automatic updates. There was always something like that in the back of our minds. I discussed it with people like Nathan, for instance, a lot, and you know, people from the core team, and we discussed this a lot because this was a recurring problem. I mean, you release an incomplete translation, and then you're complete, but then you're mid-cycle, you're in between versions. How do you push that to someone and tell them, "Oh, look, here's the correct complete translation"? So it was certainly inspired by automatic updates, and it was probably made possible by the logic of automatic updates. Wouldn't have been possible otherwise, I think. So in that sense, core automatic updates came first, clearly. Yeah.
Cool. Aaron has a question. He asked, you know, we had some stats around how the increase of contributors happened. What is the like, how many contributors are there, say, per, you know, every WordPress, I guess, minor or major release? What was, I guess, 4.6 like in terms of how many contributors were there?
So we don't have exact stats for each release,
no.
But what we can do is you can track the development and how many people translated strings in the last year, which will mean like the last two releases. If you go to the core project on each locale, I'll give you a link in a bit. If you go there, you can see the people that contributed translations and the people that you know, validated and everything. But I would say that at least 100 people contribute, because that's the number of translation editors for all languages that get like some strings translated. And the number is actually probably 10 or maybe 100 times higher, because there are so many translation contributors that are also like pushing, suggesting translations. Translation editors for each team are at least one, but in most cases, more than one person. It takes a lot of effort to go through the strings, make sure that they're consistent, make sure that they're following the style guides, glossary restrictions, and rules for each of the languages, so that people get like a really quality translation of WordPress. So yeah, I don't really have the exact numbers, but it's huge. I'd say more than like perhaps more than 1,000 people are involved in each release.
Another somewhat, I'm going to say, I don't know much about this, and Zay, I know you know a lot about this, and Petya as well. So where does this unnecessarily, I know it's like I asked about WordCamp Europe, where does it stop, right? Where does the number of languages stop? Is there like a known number of, like, for example, you guys aren't taking like dialects, you're trying to find the common ground. I guess that's the best.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah, we are.
What do you mean we're not?
Would you have a Kvinesdal?
Wait a minute. Let's get one thing straight here, right from the beginning. One of the first communities, I think it's still there, and the code exists in WordPress. We're looking for translators to Klingon, so this is a public call, and we support that, and there's an ISO code for that. And you can have one. There's an emoji translation. So what do you mean we're not taking on dialects?
I'm not. I didn't say a statement. I was asking a question. Is there something around this, right? So yeah, just a question. I don't know. So my question was.
Well, the question of living languages. I mean, it's hard to answer anyway. I mean, how many are there? 3,000, 6,000, 65,000?
But not everybody knows this. Say so.
About 4,000 active ones.
So you. Where actually live humans still speak it?
Yeah.
Between 3,000 and 6,000. So, no, we don't have 3,000 to 6,000 locales. But that classification, on the other hand, you mean it depends on how you slice it, because we have how many variants of Spanish? 8.
9.
9. So there you go.
2 more waiting.
So we have, so that you know, we have 4 variants of English. So. When you say WordPress in English, these days, you have to specify.
Yeah. And my question goes back to, just to get an idea for people who don't know this, how much is going on in such a little amount of language? So that was more of the question.
What goes into?
No, just for people to have an understanding of like how many languages there are, how many that, you know, you tapped into a very small thing, and it's very complicated, it's very complex, and it's, you know, like I said, I didn't want an answer for how many languages there will be in WordPress locale. It was more.
No, we hope all 4,000 of them.
Yeah, more of a like communication thing to tell people like me who don't know this stuff, and I think there's a lot of people out there who don't know it. So
I think I think there's one important misconception, or sometimes a misconception that we need to dispel, and this is. Translators do not translate. They are, in the sense that they're not transposing words from one language to the other. They're transposing meaning, if that makes any sense. We don't have, because otherwise we just use Google Translate, which is something I heard from many people in the US. This is, why don't you use Google Translate? I said, because what comes out of Google Translate is spelled correctly, but has no meaning. It's completely wrong and unusable. So you need a human to go in and says, what does this mean? And what does this convey? And that's why we have so many variants. And that's why we'll probably keep on having so many variants. I mean, languages are an interesting thing, because you know how many languages are spoken in the US? By living people? Probably hundreds, okay? A country like Portugal, which is tiny, we have 2 official languages. You didn't know that. And we have spoken by living people around 10 or 15 different languages. So now, and when you go to a place like the border between Brazil and Uruguay, which has a common border with Argentina, there's a language there that is in the process of acquiring an ISO code, which is a mix between Portuguese and Spanish. It's not really Portuguese, it's not really Spanish. So it's a new language. And stuff like this keeps on happening the whole time. So, you know, one good thing WordPress did for languages is this. At the beginning, at least, I don't know how it is now. You probably can tell me, Petya. Small endangered languages were extremely active on the translations, like the Basques, the Mirandese, and the Catalans, people like that. Why? Because this was seen as a weapon in their defense of their culture and their language.
It still is, yeah. It still is. They're super passionate, and
this is hugely important.
We had a request about Albanian spoken in Kosovo like just a couple of weeks back, and it's like a way for people to establish we are here, we exist, we speak this language, and like this is who we are. That's why I always say localization is super important. It's not just translation. Localization means we're bringing our culture, our way of speaking, our way of communicating to the software that the world is using. And even if we speak the same language technically, we might speak it in a different way. And that is like a way to express the uniqueness of a place or, you know, just a nationality. And that's why, like, there's a lot of untold truths about this why this work feels so emotional and so important. Because in a world that keeps getting divided and people like just jumping on each other about their differences and everything, this team is the one that you can go to where you say, I'm unique, and you'll be like, yes, you are, you know, and you get the right to be. And even if you speak a language that already exists, you get to make it sound the way it's spoken at your homeland. And this is,
yeah. And this is language. This means this taps into one of the most primordial things in your life. It goes back to the very first things you learn as a child, language. So whether you want it or not, if you're translating, you're connecting with a part of yourself that spans your whole life. So it is emotional, it is important, and it is, for us at least, it feels slightly different than the rest.
Cool. We are running out of time. I think if there are any questions from the audience, let me know. Love to ask these guys. I've had a lot of questions. Hopefully they were good questions. Like, again, I come at this from a standpoint where I'm not involved with this, and I think there's a lot of people that learn more about it. What is like a couple of things specifically from maybe even a technical standpoint that really improved to help make processes easier? Again, I say this is probably stuff I could read about on Polyglots and stuff like that. But what is some, you know, from you guys to tell the audience here, what are some things that you guys are working on as a team from a technical standpoint that are going to make these processes easier? Is there anything that you can make easier?
I'm just lurking.
Okay. So the thing with Polyglots is the Polyglots team is the translation community. A lot of the people that are on the team are developers as well, but they're mostly involved with localizing, not really developing that much, even though a lot of them are actually also helping the meta team. The team that creates all the tools that we use is the meta team that caters for the whole WordPress.org ecosystem. We are very lucky to have Dominic Schilling, who was like a core contributor and also does major work for the meta team, be a part of the Polyglots team as well. He's our technical team lead, and he knows the work that Polyglots do inside out. So he's helping us kind of migrate our needs, like just translate our needs to the meta team. Some of the things that we've been waiting for a long time have been improvements to the translation management platform in terms of feedback for translators. So global translation editors, the people that are catering for a specific locale, they they need to be able to communicate with people that start contributing for the first time. So for example, you make a suggestion, but it's wrong because it doesn't follow guidelines, it doesn't follow glossary. What you can do now is just reject it, but the translator doesn't get any feedback. So what we've been asking for a long time is a feature that will allow us to be able to get back to that person and say, it's a function called reject with feedback. So you reject the string, but you also like add a little comment and say, this was rejected because you should have used this and this here. That's what makes for you know, a learning experience for translators, not just, you know, you go and blindly translate stuff. It turns into, oh yeah, okay, I made a mistake here, or like it was a punctuation error or a grammatical error, or I didn't follow style guide, but next time I learn and I will translate it better. This is one of the features. Another feature that we're missing currently that is getting somehow, like every team comes up with their own solution, but it's in terms of communication, people need to be able to communicate within their local team. So because we've been waiting for a feature like a P2 on O2 blog for Rosetta sites where people can discuss translations, for a very long time, communities have naturally started building outside channels to deal with this. So there are like now multiple, like so many Slack instances that are just local for local translations and local communities, and people are communicating in their own language and discussing translations there. Another feature that would be amazing to have, and it's already in the works, is a feature that will allow us, when there's a bunch of new strings added to the project, translation editors and translation contributors receive like a notification about this. So there are new strings to translate, go translate them. Currently, we're doing this manually by like pinging people on the Polyglots P2, mentioning their usernames, they get an email. That works. Actually, it doesn't work really bad, but it's a lot of manual labor that can be automated, and also the number of waiting strings, like when some people suggest strings for the global translation editors to receive notification that there are strings that are waiting to be approved. That's another feature that that is currently on the roadmap. So a lot of awesome development happening under the hood, mostly. Like we don't talk about, like it's not something that impacts the average user that much, so it doesn't get a lot of attention. But the work of the meta team is super important there, and I'd just like to take this opportunity and say thank you. It's been a long, like usually there are a lot of people impatient. We've been waiting for these features for a long time. But if you are, if you want to help the Polyglots team and don't speak many languages, one of the amazing way that you can help us out is by actually helping the meta team. They can get like a lot of help in terms of testing, in terms of development, in terms of like just trying to figure out different use cases for people. So by helping them, you help us as well.
Cool. I think we are out of time. We could have room for one last question. Or Zay or Petya, do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think we've created something beautiful. We've created a working Tower of Babel. This is a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful thing.
With that said, so I can guarantee you, wherever you go, there's always people who, especially on something like WordSesh, who have who can do this. They want to do it. Maybe they don't know where to look. So Petya and Zay, if you guys want to post some links, again, it's maybe common knowledge to us, but if you want to post links, we have no idea where they can start digging into translations. Let's get those shared on WordSesh. Let's get them shared on Twitter. And let's keep contributing back to this, because I think it's a really important thing. And there's a lot of people who want to do it. So it is a lot of communication, even just telling people that, you know, it's helpful and people understanding that they're actually helping something and they want to do it. So let's continue the good work. Thank you guys for doing this talk. Thank you for all the hard work having into this. Hope to have you guys join next time. Hope to see another Polyglots translation day, WordPress translation day, Petya.
November.
There it is. Again, keep up the power. Thank you guys very much. And
bye-bye. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scotty. Bye.
Bye.